A 13-year-old girl spent weeks talking to a boy online. He was funny, flirty, attentive, the kind of person who makes you keep checking your computer, hoping there's another message waiting for you. Then one day, he suddenly turned on her, and the final message said, "The world would be a better place without you." Not long after reading it, she died inside her home. But the detail that still disturbs people nearly 20 years later is that the boy never existed. Her name was Megan Meier, and this happened back in 2006. Back when social media felt completely different from now. No TikTok, no Instagram, no Snapchat. For teenagers back then, MySpace basically was their social life. And a lot of adults still treated online relationships like they somehow mattered less than real ones. That misunderstanding became central to what happened to Megan. She was 13 years old, living in Missouri. People around her described her as emotional, sensitive, and deeply affected by what other people thought about her. She reportedly struggled with self-esteem issues for years, and had dealt with depression and anxiety from a young age, which honestly makes sense emotionally when you think about being 13. At that age, social situations feel enormous. And Megan wanted connection badly, not in some unusual way either. Then one day, she started talking to someone on MySpace named Josh Evans. According to the profile, Josh was 16. He was attractive, funny, easy to talk to, the kind of person who instantly makes a teenager feel noticed, and Megan became emotionally attached to him pretty quickly. They messaged constantly. At first, nothing about it sounded dangerous. Honestly, it just sounded like a normal teenage crush happening online. He complimented her, talked to her every day, made her feel important. Friends later said Megan seemed genuinely excited whenever they talked, and looking back now, that part feels especially sad because you can almost picture her sitting in front of a glowing computer screen, believing somebody finally understood her emotionally. For a while, everything seemed normal. Then, the tone started changing. Josh became colder, more distant. Some conversations reportedly became cruel, almost out of nowhere. At one point, he allegedly told Megan he didn't want to be friends with her anymore because he had heard she was mean to other people. That sounds small now. But for Megan, it clearly wasn't. And people around her reportedly didn't realize yet how emotionally attached she had already become. By that point, the emotional attachment was already there, and once that attachment existed, every message started carrying more weight. Then, cruel comments reportedly started appearing publicly online. People began mocking her, humiliating her. And according to reports later, Megan kept refreshing the page, hoping Josh would message her again. That detail feels awful in hindsight, because almost everybody understands that feeling. Waiting for one notification, one reply, one sign somebody still cares about you. Except Megan was emotionally attached to someone who didn't even exist. That's what makes this story feel so psychologically disturbing now. Not just the cruelty, the manipulation, a vulnerable teenager emotionally opening up to somebody who had been completely manufactured. Then, eventually, came the message people still remember nearly 20 years later. The world would be a better place without you. Not long after reading it, Megan died inside her home. She was 13 years old. At first, people believed this was another tragic cyberbullying case involving teenagers. Still horrifying. Still heartbreaking. But then, the truth behind the account started coming out. And this is where the story became genuinely disturbing to people. Josh Evans wasn't real. According to reports later, adults living near Megan's family had allegedly created the fake profile themselves, and that revelation changed the entire story. Because suddenly, this wasn't just teenagers being cruel online anymore. A teenage girl thought she was emotionally connecting with another kid online, while adults were allegedly sitting behind the screen watching the entire thing unfold. According to reports, Laurie Drew later admitted she and her daughter both had access to the account password. She reportedly described the fake profile as a joke. At first, Drew denied knowing about some of the crueler messages that had been sent to Megan. Later, she reportedly told investigators the account had originally been created to see what Megan was saying about her daughter and other people. And honestly, hearing that explanation now feels deeply unsettling. Adults creating a fake teenage boy online to gain the trust of a vulnerable 13-year-old girl, not to help her, not to protect her, to monitor her conversations. Looking back now, the warning signs feel obvious, but in 2006, social media still felt unfamiliar to a lot of adults. Most people weren't thinking deeply yet about emotional manipulation happening online. The internet still felt weirdly disconnected from real life to a lot of people. But for teenagers growing up online, it already was real life, emotionally. Then, neighbours started speaking publicly. One woman later claimed Laurie Drew laughed about the fake account and wanted to mess with Megan. And once stories like that became public, outrage spread almost immediately. But weirdly, most people still had no idea what had actually happened yet. More than a year passed before the story exploded nationally. During that time, the FBI had reportedly been investigating quietly behind the scenes and asked Megan's family not to speak publicly while the investigation was ongoing. Investigators reportedly didn't want the people connected to the account realizing they were under scrutiny. Then, eventually, Megan's aunt came across an article about internet harassment written by a local journalist named Steve Pokin. She contacted him and shared Megan's story. And the second the article was published, everything changed.